Today I'm talking to Leigh Dunlop. She is the Chief People Officer at FutureSuper. She's had a career in HR ever since doing her honors degree in psychology at UNSW, and I'm excited to talk to her today. Hi, Leigh.
Hi, Denise. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So let's get right into your job. You are a Chief People Officer. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, for sure. So I work at FutureSuper. We're an impact super fund. So we don't invest in fossil fuels or gambling, tobacco, and we want to create a future free from climate change and inequality. At FutureSuper, in my role as Chief People Officer, I oversee the HR, what we traditionally perhaps refer to as a HR function within the business, as well as some of our sort of more practical business operations and sort of office side of things. So I oversee recruitment, succession planning, engagement, anything really that falls under the banner of sort of people management, leadership, training and development and the like. A friend referred me for a role at Herbert Smith Freehills, which is a commercial law firm in their graduate recruitment team. So I'd be sort of doing graduate recruitment, overseeing their clerk intake and their graduate intakes. So at the time when I was at Herbert Smith Freehills, I did consider whether or not I wanted to go back and do my clinical masters. I know it's very different, but I went and volunteered for Lifeline for about sort of 18 months or close to 2 years, I think. And I know that is not what being a clinical psychologist is about, but I sort of dipped my toe into a little bit of sort of, I guess, counselling work in that way, noting that it is very different. And I thought, actually, I'm really enjoying the work that I'm doing and I get a lot of energy out of it. And there's a really great variety. Different things come up all the time. It's no 2 days are the same. And so as a result, I actually decided to stay on in my HR sort of career, I suppose. So I sort of fell into it. But psychology allowed me to fall into it, and I've really enjoyed it ever since.
So Leigh, you mentioned that you learned some soft skills when you were studying psychology, and I'm wondering what specifically were some soft skills that you learned that you find helpful as an HR person today?
So HR, and this is maybe what people think about when they think of HR, but you do talk to people about terminating their employment or their role becoming redundant, and having empathy and being able to support them in that moment. If you have obviously, the person is still going to be disappointed and upset because it's the nature of the conversation. But if you do it well, they can walk away feeling very differently to if you're in that conversation, you do it really poorly. And so I don't want to overstate it in saying it's life and death, but you see people at their lowest and being able to support them and have those conversations and sit there alongside them in a way that feels genuine is incredibly important in those moments. I think people who are drawn to psychology want to be with people in those moments and support them, and a career in HR does actually give you that. And obviously it's not necessarily a highlight. You don't want people to be in that situation, but I do enjoy being able to be there for people in that moment and then helping them through that.
Thanks, Leigh. What kind of advice would you give to someone who is studying psychology and considering a career in HR?
I just always assumed that psychology was a fairly sort of linear degree in which you do your psych degree, you do your honours, you do your masters, and you go practice. And what I would encourage people studying, I was like, don't be so limited in your thinking, because I was certainly very limited, and it took me a long time to realise, I guess, the opportunities afforded to me by my psych degree and how I could apply it and all the different places I could apply it. So think really broad. What gives you energy? Like, don't just assume you have to go into a counselling role or you want to sort of work up it and practice as a psychologist, because it can take you a lot of different places. In my case, I feel sort of very lucky. I kind of fell into it, but I do love it. And it can be really, really rewarding. So it's like, what is it about the psych degree, or why were you drawn to it? And how can you find that in other roles and sort of other industries?
All right, well, Leigh, thank you so much for talking with me today. This has been a real pleasure.
Awesome, it was great. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks.